Hello, we are back. It has been a minute. Welcome. It's the end of the school year. Are we so glad that it's the end of the school year? Did we just crawl to the end of the school year? I think that we did. For those of us in Texas, tomorrow or today or this week is the end of the school year. I have a lot of clients on the East and West Coast, and they've decided to stay in school. I don't know, till July 4th, something like that. What is that? I can't function with that. So we're super excited tonight that Dyslexia Tutor is going to be on. We're so excited. She knows all things about dyslexia. We're excited to see you guys. We know we're going to see a lot of you guys over the summer. We have a ton of virtual and on-demand and in-person trainings for all the teachers and admin and school-based members that are looking for a new career. I know it is late, right? It is late tonight, but you're going to be glad that you stayed up because the Dyslexia Tutor is amazing. You know, dyslexia and reading needs are such a huge topic. And so let's see, I'm going to invite,
We'll be here any second. Hey, how are you?
Could I ever be on? I am the most on-time person before the Ethernet cord.
Oh,
and I office out of my house, but it's just another 2 minutes. You're like, could you not go down the hall to the office? So how are you?
No, I'm good. It was, I was telling people yesterday was kindergarten graduation, and that was the spectacular circus that kindergarten graduation always is, with people freezing on stage, but nobody cried.
Nobody cried. What
So,
grade do you teach?
so we're happy. Well, I work with a homeschool charter right now. I've traditionally taught kindergarten, second, first, but right now I'm working with the kindergartners. But because it's a homeschool charter, they haven't seen me that many times if they don't come. So all they know is their parents want them to put on this goofy gown and cap, and this lady's telling them what to do. And
Yeah,
so it is. It's definitely like my cirkies and my monkeys,
that's funny. Yeah, somebody
So
said
what
that
have you?
it was graduation today for one of my families, but it was
Mhm.
everybody else. The kids were there, but everybody else had to be virtual. So I guess they were just all parked in the parking lot.
Oh,
Yeah. So, but
oh,
it's better
that's
than it was
sad.
a couple years ago, right? So we just little progress, little progress. So,
Well,
tell me your name. I don't want to say it
yeah,
wrong.
share.
Sure. Okay. That's what I thought. But if you say it wrong,
You
people.
know, So yeah, anybody out there, hi Sped Mom, anyone who has any questions about special education, about advocacy, about IEPs, about dyslexia, about kids learning to read, that's our stuff. So we would
Yeah.
love to hear questions.
Right. So I have questions for you already from my people. And
Oh,
so
good.
if you're one of my people, it's state law that you need to follow her. She's ridiculously amazing. I don't follow a lot of people. I mean, I probably follow less than about 200 people. And she really, really knows her stuff and all the colorful little things to help people. I was like, I should have had that. So kind of first of all, tell us where you are, how you got in this space, and as in being the dyslexia tutor.
Yeah. So right now I'm in Central California. I taught in Los Angeles in massive urban schools for 20 years. Then I went to Hawaii. In Los Angeles, we don't say dyslexia.
Oh,
In fact, until I left Los Angeles in 2011, I didn't think it was a thing. I thought auditory processing disorder was the same thing, and that dyslexia was like an old-fashioned word that no one used anymore. Then I went to Hawaii, and all of a sudden it was like dyslexia. And that's where I first got my training and realized the miracle that, oh, all of the children can learn to read.
oh,
And then I moved back to California. And now I'm in Central California, and I work with a homeschool charter. I am a strongly anti-charter school, but they were the only people that wanted to hire a teacher at the top of the pay scale. They should be. As
yeah.
soon as I'm retired, I'm going to work to change the laws on charter schools and homeschooling also. So that can always get people thinking.
Yes.
But yeah, so I work with families and help them choose their curriculum. I actually make my homeschool parents teach their children,
What?
and I do the dyslexia tutoring. I
You
know.
mean you
I
want the
mean, look,
parents and the schools to both be doing the same thing for the kiddo?
I
So
want
weird.
everybody to teach the children.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been working as an Cunningham tutor in the school for a couple of years and doing things privately for a long time. So yeah, so it's kind of miraculous when you realize that all children should be learning to read.
Right. The percentages of the special ed pipeline to prison. Well, first of all, the juvenile population is up to 85%, which I think people get confused. So when I get an IEP and I get a kiddo that didn't have a problem, and they're all of a sudden a behavior problem, I said, well, I can tell you what that is. They probably have an SLD, two, three, four, five of them, right? Instead of we're going to shape their behavior. How about teaching them to read, right? And I get cases from the courts where judges are going to rule. Kiddo has a 61 IQ, can't read, but he was, in the football team and in the marching band, right? He had these high adaptive scores. So yeah, he's illiterate. What do you want people to do when they're illiterate for a vocation, right? So the front of the Dyslexia Handbook in Texas says, and I'm quoting it wrong, but it's a phenomenal quote, and it basically says, children that don't become successful readers will not be successful in life, right? And so we know that the
Right.
percentages in prison are, most of them were learning disabilities. They weren't,
Right.
severe ADHD or ED or AU. Not that doesn't happen, but they cannot make a wage if you're illiterate. And there's so many people,
I've often
adults. Yeah,
What is the literacy rate in other countries? Because ours is appalling and our prison population is so high for so many reasons. But I've often wondered, because such a high percentage of prisoners have learning disabilities, really, what is it like in countries where they actually treat all children and help all children learn to read?
right. And why
Yeah,
is it some like we've gone over the mountain and people come running out and they're like, I got a 504. Yeah, you got something. You got a piece of paper that can be used for a coaster. And they gave me the dyslexia program. They didn't give you Jack, right?
right,
And is it being
right.
delivered with fidelity or when we get good and ready? Like, why can't we just teach kids to read and write and do math? What happened to that? Like, where did that go?
I agree. And the hardest thing for me is that when I have a child who's newly diagnosed in our school, they are lucky if they get, well, no, they typically get 1 hour a week of specialized academic intervention. And I don't know if there are any LDs where that is sufficient to do a damn thing. But a kid who's mildly dyslexic needs a couple hours a week. A kid who
Right.
is severely dyslexic needs an hour every single day.
Right.
So it's really,
You mean an hour where they're
and
actually
you
delivering the
can't get
dyslexia
that without
program?
an advocate.
Yeah. And an hour
Right.
they're
You
actually
can't get
delivering
that
it.
without,
No, you
yeah.
can't. And
Yeah.
it's, people ask me,
I've never, anyway.
why do you have to have an advocate? I said, well, I don't know why. I'm in the great state of Texas. We're in last place, but you're going into a legal setting. You're going into court, right? And you're asking people
Yes.
to spend money on things that they may not value. I had a lady on one of my lives and she follows me and she's from Slovenia. That could be in Texas somewhere. And
Wow.
she said, I love your pictures in front of the Coliseums. I said, those are football stadiums, right? And so what we spend our money on tells me what we care about, right? And if it's
Yeah.
not a school board meeting photo op, we don't care. We don't care.
Right. Well, that is one of my things that I tell young teachers all the time is there money for central office air conditioning? How old is the carpet in the central office? Okay, so there's money. We know there's money. As long as the people at the top have expensive furniture and air conditioning and new buildings, there's money. I have to tell you, in Los Angeles, especially, the buildings I worked in were portables that had been put up in the 1950s, and their lifespan was, 15 years, and I left in 2011. Like you have bugs, you have rodents, you have air and heat that doesn't work. So,
Yeah.
there's money. There's always money. There's
It's never
always
been
money.
about money. Never.
No,
No, it's about
right,
power and
right.
position and what we focus on. So let me just go through a couple of these
Yes.
questions. So somebody said, so 4-year-old newly diagnosed with dyslexia, what would be your recommendations?
It depends on what the 4-year-old knows. So I think that what you want to look
I
at
think they said, I'm
first
sorry,
is you
fourth
want
grader,
to
fourth
fourth
grader.
grade. Okay. So it depends on what your fourth grader knows, but really what every dyslexic child needs is an Orton Gillingham program. And they will assess your child and they will sometimes start at the very beginning, but they will find out exactly what the gaps are and teach them. Now, if you're trying to teach your child at home with dyslexia, or you're trying to supplement at home and it's mild to moderate, there's a program that I really love called All About Reading, which you can get online at the All About Learning Press. It was written by a homeschool mom for her dyslexic children. So
Okay.
it's very parent friendly and it's very thorough. That's not going to help your child if they're severely dyslexic. But what you really need, I'm sorry to say, is probably a private tutor. And I can say that because I'm not taking any clients right now. Um, but depending on what the school is offering, you want to get Orton Gillingham tutoring. So you need to find out the name of the program that your school is providing so you can determine if that's the appropriate instruction or not. That's the first thing.
So let me ask you this, because I do about 500 IEP meetings a year because I like to grind my teeth. And everybody in the
Yes,
meeting says, oh, this program is based on that, whether it's the DIPS, or reading by design. Don't even get me started.
I don't know
Or
that one.
just
Yeah.
some sort of, reading number 4. It's all OG. Is it?
Well, it can be. There are a lot of Orton Gillingham programs, and I don't know all of them. And they're good to varying degrees. If they're super cheap and you didn't have to do anything to get certified, then it's probably a basic Orton Gillingham program. And that might be enough if your child is only mildly dyslexic. But the kind of the gold standard would be Wilson is an excellent program. Anyone certificated through the International Dyslexia Association or the Dyslexia Training Institute. There's a program called Sunday that's also good. But really, you want a Wilson certified tutor, or my mind just has blanked on the other major
Nyhouse?
organization. They're fabulous, yes. So you want someone who's certified through one of those major organizations.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And so is now, I mean, the blessing of COVID and the curse of COVID is, all this is kind of opened up. So I think we lost her for a second, but I'm sure she's going to log back on. So I'm sure she's going to take flight. That looks good. She's back. Was
Okay,
it
there
was
we
it
go.
something I said?
I'm sorry, we cannot have that kind of language that we know advocates use.
Yeah, like data. Yeah,
Nyhouse is excellent. They're
yeah.
great.
So if somebody shares, I've sat here for 2.5 years with an Ethernet doing due process court cases and advocating. I was in Boston this morning, and I'll be in Washington tomorrow. So, is that something? If I found Miss Joe, that's a great instructor like yourself in Missouri, could she teach my kid via a virtual platform?
100%. I
Okay.
do that. Listen, it's not as good as having someone right there with you. And honestly, if you're going to do virtual tutoring, I really encourage the parents, at least for the first bunch of sessions, to be right there with the child. Because
Okay.
I'm going to say things to them like, how many sounds do you hear in the word frog? And they're going to hopefully find 4. And I'm going to have them have like little, you know, colored things in front of them. They're going to go og, and then I'm going to say, can you change the first sound in that word to but? And they're going to need to like move their object, so you really want an adult at first to say, here's what she wants you to do.
Right.
After that, after they understand the routine, you can 100% get excellent tutoring online. Yes.
And what I love
Yes.
about your content is it's very obvious you know what you're talking about. So I love anybody
Thank
that knows what
you.
they're talking about, even if I don't like what they're talking about. I love that you've paired so much visual, right? Like when did we
It
lose that?
has
Like it
to be.
makes so much sense. I was like, I want the 4
Hmm.
pom poms. right? And I
Yeah.
think that we've made things so. There's a saying, I am not an educator. God bless educators. I'm sure I made most of my teachers during Watergate, go to the honky tonk. But we've taken things that were simple, and there's a saying that only educators can take something simple and make it complicated. And I think we
Yeah,
got
it's
to take it
true.
back down to the roots, right? You need to be able to
Well,
read.
yeah.
Yeah,
You need to be able to see something to help you understand what that means.
right,
You really need something to look at and something to touch. And we say that that's what dyslexic learners need, but I have to tell you, after a million years, this is my 34th year. Everybody needs something that they can manipulate and touch. I mean,
right.
there's a certain percentage of kids that will learn to read if my dog Charlie is in front of the room teaching them with any program, but everybody else, the other 85%, need that kind of instruction. So
Right. Somebody just said, I'm a high school admin. We sacrifice another position to have a reading interventionist. Best decision ever. Thank you, Maria. Love Orton Gillingham.
that's
Multisensory
so
techniques
wonderful.
are needed. How do you feel about MTA?
I don't know MTA.
I don't know what that
And
is.
I
That
have
like,
someone here who said, I I have someone who said, is it necessary to get an evaluation of both visual and or auditory processing if dyslexia is suspected? Yes, yes, yes. You want every evaluation you can get. You want all the
look, she
evaluations,
just,
all of them. You
yeah.
want the social emotional evaluation. You want the auditory. You want everything, because why not get your child everything that they're entitled to, even though maybe it's dyslexia and maybe we'll go bing, that's what it is. That doesn't mean they don't have other needs. And your child is entitled to a free public education, so get it. And sorry, I think my dog walker's here. I hope my dog walker is here.
I
It's
wish you could
100
send your
degrees
dog
outside.
walker to
I'm
my
not
house.
walking the dog. Yeah, you can't have my dog walker.
It's
It's
probably
too
too far.
valuable.
Yeah.
Nope, not yet. Yeah, too
Yeah.
far, too
I
hot.
always tell
I
people
don't
that,
put my
that
dog.
testing does one of two things. It identifies or eliminates, and we want both,
Right,
right? And
right.
there are
Yeah,
9 specific
absolutely.
learning disabilities, not just dyslexia. So we assume that we know what
Yeah.
it is. And then, I just had a kiddo who's going into 12th grade. Oh, by the way, he didn't just have ADHD and dyslexia. He had 3 other specific learning disabilities. Do you think a 17-year-old wants intervention now? No,
No, that's
no.
so sad.
Yeah, because
That's really
everything.
frustrating.
So all of these kids that struggle with ADHD, it's my experience, and I know nothing. I'm on a committee of no one, but the percentages of the kiddos that I've served over 25 years that have ADHD and have learning disabilities, or have learning disabilities and ADHD, and usually we just pick one and we land there. Well, that's great, but
Mm-hmm.
servicing a kid with ADHD is different than a kid with ADHD and a learning disability. We have to address it all.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So
And how many, like, how do you determine when you're in an IEP and fighting for a student's rights, how do you decide what is an appropriate number of hours of intervention?
So unfortunately, they tell us the P word. I don't know if it's proctologist, Karen, or protocol.
Mhm.
Ugh. And I'm always like, great, could you print that out since it's protocol? So, unfortunately, the products that we get here in a lot of our school districts are junk. And a lot of kiddos, when they get a little bit older, I'd rather for their bang and their buck be with a reading interventionist that covers more than just dyslexia,
Mhm.
because I know how light it can be in some districts, not all districts, but usually for
Yes.
a child in elementary school, they're going to give you 45 minutes, 4 days a week, because Lord knows we need a break on Friday. And then 30 minutes, it's like the later they're identified, which makes it worse, we give them less. That's a great model, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So, I mean, what
right.
we'll do is, we'll do like an hour on Thursdays during football season. What? Like,
I
why?
know. I
Why?
know. And the paperwork is immense, and I understand that. But my problem was they would see them maybe Monday through Thursday and not on Friday, but then once a week they would cancel because they were in IEP meetings, or the
Oh,
problem is
really?
there really are not enough hours in the week. and people don't spend enough money on special ed resources. It's clear that schools need way more special education teachers, as if we could make wave a magic wand and create them. But even at my school, they just keep saying, well, our sped teachers' cases are really heavy. And I'm like, that didn't magically mean that no one else has a learning disability, so we
Right.
can't identify them. It means you need to like not buy a laser cutter and get another special ed teacher on staff.
In Georgia, in Virginia, in Indiana, in Washington, dyslexia is like my natural hair color. They'll tell you at the meeting, we don't do that here. What, like you have a fence at the border? I'm like, this is not really happening, is it? Yeah. And
But
in Indiana,
what
they told
about
us
the
we have to
fact
go
that
to the
there's
doctor and get uh,
uh-huh.
a diagnosis.
Yes.
And
Yes, that's what I hear in Southern California as well, that it was a medical diagnosis. And I'm thinking the school psychologist will tell you if your child has ADHD. The school psychologist will tell you if your child has any of these other LDs. Why is dyslexia different? I don't understand well, why try to understand the logic, right? I mean,
yeah,
you can't. There is
you
none.
can't.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But the runaround that we give families, so in Texas, we ranked 50th, 50, in special education delivery services, last place, and we ranked number one in 504. And we've stuck every kid in Texas under a 504 for diabetes and dyslexia. So like it's like the heavens have opened up, right? And it's embarrassing. Nobody in Texas, and I want to say nobody gets special education dyslexia unless you have a phenomenal advocate. You just don't get it.
Mhm. That shocks me because when I look, say, on LinkedIn, all the dyslexia jobs are in Texas.
They
I
should
don't
be.
understand. That
We're
doesn't
number one
make
in
sense.
504. They should be.
Well, maybe that's why.
Yeah.
What do they say about that? We call it the Dear Colleague letter, where the federal government actually said, you should say the word dyslexia. You should diagnose children with dyslexia. How do they respond to that?
So the federal government share is a great entity, and I love them. First of all, IDA is an overreach. We didn't fund it,
Yeah,
and the federal government
right.
lets states govern themselves. That's a great idea, right? And so
Hmm.
we just got a little tiny fine from the federal government about that little cap that we did in special ed for $267 million. So Mr. Mike Morath wrote them a check for $267 million, which would have paid for a lot of my hairspray. And OSEP said, by the way, Mike, you didn't finish the corrective action plan. And he goes, yes, I did. Yes, I did. So now we're in trouble again. So we're spending money. We don't believe in SPED. We've been 49th and 50th for almost the whole time that I've done this. So until we pay, you're going to pay, right? Society is going to pay. Either pay
Yes.
now
Yes.
or you pay later. And now it's like,
Hmm.
oh, well, we don't need to read share. We've got Snap and Read. We've got Co-Writer. He can just walk around with the laptop all day and have it read to him.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Continue to recuse yourself from teaching my child. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. I don't, well, I'm going away for the summer. When I come back, I'm going to take a specific dyslexia advocacy course and consider adding that in because I love tutoring, but there's a lot more tutors out there than there are advocates. And I feel more confident that a child can get served in California after they're identified than that they can get identified. But it's frustrating because you feel like I don't want to have to go in there and be angry, adversarial. But you know what? How can I? And of course, we don't present ourselves as angry in the meeting. It's just matter of fact. But I don't know how you do what you do and don't have a stroke at the end of the day. How are you
Well,
not just livid all the time?
I have a lot of these, and I had about 15 Red Bulls a day. And it is my honor to walk alongside a child's, educational healing when I get a text message. when I know kids are going to be stuck in life skills starting at 6, and I go in there and I say, absolutely not. And I've changed, I've had an opportunity to partner with them to change. You're changing somebody's life. It's somebody's
Yeah,
destiny, right?
that's right.
And so
That's right.
somebody has to be a big mouth. And I got an F in conduct starting during Watergate. And so I'm going to stand up for these kids. I'm standing up for
Yeah.
families. I'm also standing up for probably 20% of my clients are school-based members. They treat school-based members that have a child with disability worse
Yes,
than you can imagine.
absolutely.
100
Oh,
times
I
worse.
know. Hmm.
Yeah. Why would you call
Yeah,
sheriff?
that's
Why did
right.
you call Karen? What are you doing? Like we're married.
Hmm.
If my child is bleeding in the emergency room, I don't go, I really hope the nurse is in a good mood today. I hope she's happy.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
so this
And
has nothing to do with COVID. This SPED mess was a mess long before COVID.
it absolutely was. COVID didn't help, but absolutely. And that's the other thing is there's a lot of money right now. I keep getting emails from various companies about the things our school could spend their ESSER funds on, and
ESSER
I don't even
funds,
exactly
ESSER,
know what
ESSER.
they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Where'd
Had
it
to do
go?
with COVID relief, right?
Where is that
It's like,
COVID
how
19
about,
Recovery Act money? Yeah.
I don't know. All I know is they're talking about using it for conferences and, all these things. It's like, how about if we use it to get special education services for the kids that need them instead of,
How about if we staffed the teachers' classes? What if we did that
mhm,
instead of running
right.
them ragged, right? So we can do
Yeah,
it. We've got to
I
shift
don't know
the
how people do it.
85% of the school budget from the people going to have a steak lunch and Chick-fil-A luncheons. I love Chick-fil-A. If you'd like to sponsor me, I drink Chick-fil-A sauce, but there's plenty of money, right? So do
Yeah.
you write OG and IEPs? So if you're asking me, legally, you can't write a brand name because you could have them make you write them a check, but I'll let Cher defer. I'll defer to that with you.
But I don't really know that much about how you can put it in IEPs. But the thing is, OG is not a brand, it's an approach.
Okay.
So I've never understood why you couldn't say Orton Gillingham based. I could understand. In fact, it seems to me like you should even be able to say, we want someone who's certificated by the International Dyslexia Association, but that might be an overreach. Orton Gillingham, though, it's not like there's one place that gets money.
Okay.
There's tons of people that train you in Orton Gillingham. So
Okay.
I feel like that should be written into an IEP. I know people also say you can't write in a specific program, and I don't know why you can't do that. Or can you do that? Can you say I want my child to have, the
Well, so
tutor in this
here's
school is
the problem
getting
with that, right? So let's say that we agree to
yeah.
it. Your school district bought that product. We're delivering it. But somebody new comes in that counts the beans and says, no, we want Bob's reading program. Well, then you're in
Mhm.
violation of what you agreed to federally under the IEP, right?
So
Um,
schools just won't agree to it.
correct. Because somebody's
Okay.
always courting the schools, right, to get them to buy
Right.
whatever product they're selling. What do you recommend for a
Hmm.
transitional IEP to middle school? So if you have a transitional IEP to middle school, without exception or exemption, the Oregon Transition Resource Handbook, the gold standard, I train on that. They are the best. You want to make sure that your kiddo going to um, transitioning or using transitioning services has a robust plan, but you want to make sure that you've addressed all of their needs across each content area, and where there's an identified deficit that you have an IEP goal that somebody who is special ed is going to deliver that SDI, that specially designed instruction. Somebody said Take Flight. Is that a reading program?
Take Flight is a reading program that has a good reputation. I have not used it, but I've heard good things about it, as long as the person who's delivering it does it well.
Right.
You can have people even who are trained who are just bad teachers. So
I know.
that's the hard part. But Take Flight is a good program.
How should school districts be tracking IEP time? Well, that is a very good question. So most of my OCR complaints are about that there actually isn't SDI delivered. There's not specially designed instruction delivered. So today I was in a meeting and I asked for the general ed teacher's name and the second teacher's name, and I sit here on my second computer, and lo and behold, that second teacher is an aide. So general ed teachers, an aide, does that equal special ed? It doesn't. So I think that you have to be the one tracking the IEP time. What did you agree to? Did you agree to 350 minutes of IEP time for the week? I ask at the meeting, who's going to deliver that next year? Who's going to deliver that? Get that agreement in the deliberations so that we're all on the same page. Who is going to track the IEP data collection sheets? And does your administrator provide the blank IEP data collection sheets? And when you say that, they all look at you like, well, I'm sorry, we speak English here. Blank IEP data sheets. And they go, they were getting good grades. Oh, so let's see. Reading by design.
Karen, oh, that sounds familiar, but I can't think of it off the top of the head. Karen, I was doing some of the intervention for one of our special ed kids, and I realized, or no, this was different. This was one of my students that was having an initial IEP, and I realized that our special ed teacher was going around to the teachers who had children on their roster and saying, so-and-so's annual IEP is tomorrow. Could you give me a quick blurb about their academic progress? And it wasn't until I started learning that I realized that that quick blurb was their present levels.
Yeah,
Like no
blurb.
data, just like the teacher saying, so-and-so appears to be reading at level blah, 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 blah. And that was
Appears.
it.
Appears.
Appears. Well, today they were.
What is appears?
Today they're at this level.
Yeah, what kind of
Well, it means
reading
today
scale
it
is
kind
it?
of looked like it. Yeah.
I
Right.
just had that yesterday. It said around a fourth grade. That's like me saying I'm kind of a personal trainer. I'm not. Yeah. So somebody just asked me,
Yeah.
I'm sure they're asking me, special ed host, do you have any, in all caps, teaching experience as a gen ed and their special ed teacher? I do not have any experience doing that because that is not what my specialty is. However, I do tons of professional development at the state and federal level. I do education for American Printing House for the Blind, American Federation for the Blind, Learning Disabilities Association of America, Tourette Syndrome Association of America. But no, I don't have, in all capital letters, any teaching experience, but I do have lots of experience making sure that families get what they need for their child with this disability. Do you recommend that same one? What about this new way of books being printed? Oh, I think that you were talking about that today. Was that like the dark and light print that you were showing today on a TikTok?
Oh, the TikTok with the new font. That's just something that I saw online, and I cannot remember what it's called right now because I
Was
have
it Boomerang or Boom or Boxer or?
I don't know. But it's just a program. It's just a font someone came up with. And apparently you can go, if you can find that video and find the name of it. So close. I'll think of it. You can download their app and you can put any text in there and have it converted to that font. Now, I don't know what that means if you have a book, but go to their website. Like I said, it'll come to me. It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
I've
it's
seen
not going
that.
to help anyone who can't read, but if you're a fluent reader and you're slow, I think it's helpful. It's very interesting. Bionic reading, thank you. That's
Bionic.
it.
I knew it was a
There's
B.
like 4 people there. Yeah.
Somebody asked, any
Yeah.
thoughts on corrective reading?
Don't know that as a specific term.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Tennessee Department of Education does not recognize dyslexia. What can we do to fight that? Storm the Capitol steps. Seriously, you
I
got.
would imagine there must be a chapter of the International Dyslexia Association. I think every state has one. So I would look to them and see who they're lobbying. They must be, because as I was saying earlier, there is literally a letter from the federal government saying,
Oh,
"Dear special ed departments, you need to say the word." It's called the Say Dyslexia Letter. And
yeah.
people still won't do it. I mean, it's incomprehensible to me.
I won't tell you what state, Indiana one time. And she said, we don't do that here. I said, well, unless you have a fence and you stop taking stop taking funds, we're going to do that here. So MTA is multi-sensory teaching approach. Of course, that's going to be fantastic. What language do you use to have visual and auditory processing checked? So as it relates to me, when I'm asking for a full and individual evaluation, I'm going to ask for a formal cognitive evaluation to include all 7 and or 8 Gs so that we get all of those brain skills and along with formal achievement. What would you ask for, Cher?
Do you want to explain what the G's are? I think that's important for people to know in
Right.
terms
So,
of assessment.
right. I will let, I'm going to let you explain it because I bet you have a fancier way of saying it.
I don't. I actually forget which they are because I don't work with people that haven't been evaluated that much. But basically, it's saying that when you go for an evaluation, you say, I want a full educational evaluation, including, and then there are these categories that I can never remember.
Right. And so the 7 Gs are, and I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but the reason that you want all 7 Gs, and we have a training on Special Education Academy on YouTube, and lots of it that's available there. But the 7 Gs are brain skills, right? So we have long-term retrieval and or storage. We have a short-term working memory. We have auditory processing, visual processing, fluid reasoning, processing speed, visual spatial, your intelligence, your general intelligence. And those all tell me a number of things. What they tell me is I can tell you how to be a better parent. I can tell you, you probably tell your kid, this is this. And you say, why don't you pay attention? And parents are like, oh, if we knew the gold that is in a cognitive profile, like we probably could all get along on the earth, right? When people go, you're lazy.
Yes.
No, his processing speed's on the 10 percentile. He probably has low blood pressure and you want him to hurry up. We want everybody to hurry up in school. And he's not slow. He doesn't have a cognitive deficit. He processes information. He takes a longer time to process information than I do. I'm a crock pot. He's a crock pot. I'm a microwave. I'm really more of a wok, just right. And so we applaud kids that are faster, quicker, smarter, taller, and we shouldn't, right? Everybody
Right.
is cooked differently, and to not know what those mean, processing speed, fluid reasoning, that ability with automaticity to know what to do next in novel situations. That's why people, of course, it's tied to math, but that's why a lot of people end up in horrible relationships, in bad situations, in bad business agreements, in jail, because they're the ones that literally are standing there holding the bag. That's the kiddo when you come in the kitchen and there's milk on the floor and they're standing there and you say, why didn't you clean it up? I don't know. Right? They don't know what to do next because they haven't had that experience, right? Once they do learn it, they have it. They can put it in their long-term storage and or retrieval. But until they have that, they just don't automatically know. And if we knew those
Mm-hmm.
things about
They
kiddos,
don't generalize. Yeah.
yeah, if we knew that about kiddos, we would teach different, whether they met eligibility or not, right? You rushing
Right.
him doesn't benefit anybody, right? Wanting, and so we have to know when we sit at an IEP meeting and somebody rattles off an IEP evaluation, they say, okay, Cher, you got an 88 here, a 97 here, a 104 here, and da da da. Do you have any questions? Nobody's explained to you that 85 is in the 15th percentile. So when we look at parents, we say, hey, you got an 85
Right.
is in the average range.
They're
I
like,
always
oh,
go,
that's a
whoa.
B.
Yeah, people think it's me. I
Yeah.
said, well, actually, it's the 15th percentile. If you're in the 15th
Mm-hmm.
percentile of going to work, we call that unemployed. If you're in the 15th
Yes.
percentile of paying your house, you live somewhere else. So let's
Right.
tell the truth to the parents instead of them going, they're in the average range, right? They don't know the
Right.
range is 70% of humans, right? And so we have to do better all the way around. But you want to ask for a full individual evaluation, sociological, medical, language evaluation to include pragmatic, cognitive evaluation to include all 7 Gs, formal evaluation, adaptive behavior, a full psychological evaluation to include looking at all 3 eligibilities, ED, ADHD, autism, possible rating scales, a student interview if it's appropriate, parent interview, 2 teachers rating scales, consideration for counseling related service, a possibility of an FBA and a BIP and a UPS and an OPI. And then related instructional services, right? And so if you don't know what to go in and ask for, I always say it's like Sharon and I go in and we're going to have Mexican food. And we sit down and the guy comes up and he says, what do you want? And we say, we want Mexican food. And that's what parents
Right.
do when they go into school. And then you get this Burger King. I love Burger King if you'd like to sponsor me. But you could have had Ruth Chris. And while Burger King
Yes.
doesn't hurt your kid, it's not what they needed to mitigate the impact of their disability. We have to get it right from the jump, right? And we can do better. We can do better than give a family an FIE that's 7 pages long.
No.
Uh-uh. Right?
Yeah, I
But
see that pretty
yeah.
well. So
Are
here's
there
my question.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, so here's my question that a lot of people have from when I talk to them about advocacy. They say, it isn't fair that you have to be able to afford an advocate to get your child the services they need. And my response to that is the same as it is with tutoring, which is that's why I put aside a certain percentage of my profits and use that for pro bono work. But how do you respond when people say, this isn't right, this isn't fair, and also to me all the time, you should.
She's going to jump back on. It wasn't me. I know it wasn't me, right? So her question is, it isn't fair that you should have to hire an advocate. I absolutely 1,000,000,000% couldn't agree with you more. However, whether it's fair or not, it's a reality. If you're going to really believe that you're going to get a robust IEP, you're going to right?
Yeah, that's
Is
what I
it
think.
fair
Okay,
that I have to?
and you're
Yeah,
back. There you
yeah.
are. Okay.
Is it fair that I have to
So
hire a realtor to sell my house? I
how?
don't know. Is it fair that I had to have an
Yeah.
attorney to divorce my first husband? I don't know, right? So I don't know about fair. I don't know what that means, right? Are there free advocates?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And this is one of the reasons we have tons of content that's free on our YouTube channel. We have tons of
Yes.
content on our Facebook pages. We are trying to
Yes.
train you for reigning. I don't know. Is it fair that both of my boys are professional athletes and I paid all that money for extra whatever? I don't know. I don't know what fair means. We do live in America.
Yeah.
This is the only place on the
Yep.
globe. I have clients all over the globe that has special ed that's funded. If you lived anywhere else, you could pay
Yeah.
$45,000 a year for your child to have a para. So
That is a good point.
fair for me is a waste of time. So it's not about why, it's about what's
Yeah.
next. And we have to, as parents and advocates and school-based members, come together and say, I smell something, and it doesn't smell good, and we have to change it. Change comes from people stepping up and saying, this is the truth, so we can
Yep.
address it. And we can bring change. The change doesn't come because people don't formally complain. People don't formally complain to the
Correct.
OCR in an appropriate way. They don't write formal state written complaints. We sit in the football stands and we sit at Panera Bread and we sit at Paint Till You Faint and we complain, but nobody complains at the state level. I live in a state with 600,000 kids with IEPs and about 24 hearings a year for due process. So you're not
Really?
complaining, you're whining.
That is shocking.
Shocking. So this last year, of the 35 decisions, 5 of them were mine. This is one of 10 states I'm allowed to interpret state and federal law without being a litigator. I do that. But nobody wants to sign their name on the complaint, right? We want somebody else to do it. We don't know. Nobody wants
Right.
We want to be liked. We want to be on the PTA. We want our daughter to be on the drill team. So we have to pick what's valuable.
And the truth is, too, that when they, whoever they are, when the people who dole out services get us fighting each other, get parents fighting against parents about why does your child get this when my child doesn't? Why do we have to spend this much money on it's like, that's how we all lose, right? As soon as parents are against each other or teachers are against each other and teachers and parents are fighting in the IEP room, which is not usual. Usually the teachers are in the IEP room. That's where everybody loses.
Right. And the teachers, we know because I train them in professional development. I have them as clients. They come to our trainings. 2/3 of the people that come to my trainings are not parents. They're school-based members that they get no training.
Yes.
None, zero, zero.
No.
So
absolutely.
The teachers and the administrator, the teachers want to do what's right, and they are prepped and hushed before IEP meetings. And so it's not about she's being mean to us. Don't you like teachers? We got to get off that. I love teachers. Teachers
Yeah.
have changed my child's life. Teachers change the life of the 500 kids I serve every year. So we got to get off the I don't like you thing. We have a problem.
Yeah.
We have a toxic environment that has to be addressed, right? And so to say I don't like you, it was not nice. It's not
Yeah.
nice to leave something that's destroying children's lives. So if that makes you not like me, I
Yes.
don't have a problem with that. I wanted to be popular, but I ended up being effective. If that bothers you, I'm so sorry. That's a you
And
problem.
Jesse said you also have teachers.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is. Jesse also said you also have teachers that get targets on their backs when they
yeah,
disagree and advocate for our kids. You know what? I have a principal right now. I hear my dog barker. I have had to take down TikToks because I was afraid for my job because I'm at a freaking charter school. And yes, the things that we cannot say
right,
in places, especially where teachers don't have tenure. Hi, here he comes. Especially in places where we don't have tenure, it's just appalling. And it's the thing that's most frustrating to me, though, is in places like Los Angeles where they have a powerful union and the teachers still won't speak up because they're afraid. It's like, who do you think they're going to fire you and hire who? Like, where is the line of people that want your job? You know,
right,
like if especially if you have a union, you have nothing to lose
right.
except some discomfort. And honestly, half admins suck so much that you're going to be uncomfortable anyway. So you might as well like enjoy it.
Somebody
That's
asked,
my
where's our
problem. I went from a regular school to a charter and now I have to be nice.
yeah, nice? Not I've never gotten an A in nice. I don't know who nice people are. I like them. I'm just not I don't know what that means, nice, right? So as I always am one thing, I'm clear. I am not mean. I'm clear. I'm clear. This is the problem.
Yes.
This is great. Let's keep doing that. This is not great. Let's fix it, right? So somebody asked what are your trainings, so you can just go up to the link in the bio, swipe left and follow the arrows. We have all kinds of trainings. If you email us and tell us that you are in education, just simply email us and tell us that you are in education. We will give you a free month to the academy. There's over 150 hours of training archived on there with workbooks, all of my outfits and my information. And so you'll get a free month to the academy. We meet every week for about 2 hours live federal training. So just email admin@specialeducationacademy.com. I'm sure one of my team members are putting it in there. I think as a special ed teacher for 25 years, this problem is so pervasive. There's not enough. It is pervasive, enough money, enough trainings, and not enough pairs. Agreed, agreed, agreed.
Yeah.
We're very excited that we have schools
Yeah.
that are actually coming to our trainings, that our school districts since COVID are having us come out from coast to coast. We're actually training a whole state this summer. It's a little state. She said, can you come and scare our teachers?
Wow.
I said, well, no, I don't, it's not about scaring anybody. I want to equip you. Why would I want to, we're all the same. There's just one team, the child's team. I'm not here to aha you.
Yep.
There are people that are like that. They should be shot in the ankle with a Nerf gun multiple times, right? That's not what I do.
Yeah.
I want everybody to win. When I'm at the table, I'm equipping Cher. I'm like, Cher, this is a great website. This is how you read. Like, I'm not here to aha you. We have enough goofballs in the world that do that. So I don't even know how to spell
Right.
aha correctly. We were told too many kids are qualifying even though they met qualifications. Yep. Come to NC, they
Right.
need help. Yes, everybody needs help. We all need help. I think, unfortunately, a lot of advocates are adversarial if we walked into a meeting. And I don't know that they are or aren't. I am there to audit your paperwork. I'm not there to be your buddy. Uh, but I think that if teachers were properly supported by their bosses, because I know you're not supported by your bosses, because I do
Right.
process hearings. I do federal complaints. And listen, when the rubber meets the road and I say Miss Smith didn't take data in language arts and Mr. Jones didn't take data in math, your admin is, the admin never steps up and says, that's me.
Like,
I didn't
hold
support my
down.
teachers. You know who's on the witness stand
Right.
in the due process? Not a principal, the unstaffed teachers and the untrained paras, right? Because you're on the hook.
Yeah.
And I
Yep.
wish there are some amazing special ed directors, amazing. but they're run out of town too. I mean, the pressure is a state level down, right? This is a government entity,
Right.
but we can make it better. We can. We absolutely can.
That is a really interesting point, too, when someone said they say we have too many kids qualifying. I heard something, my principal said something the other day, and I didn't quite catch it because I don't listen to her very much, but it had to do with state testing. And she said that when we got above a certain percentage of our children identified, it affected how our scores were interpreted by the state. Like, we're penalized with the state testing, and we all know that's all that matters. So
Oh, yeah.
parents just have to freak out about state testing and all of those things. Parents
I
have to
address
make
state testing
so
at
much
every
more noise.
meeting. I always say, first of
Yeah.
all, the STAR test is spelled wrong. And we had a great vocation called teaching, and we ruined it with state testing. Thank you. The
Yes.
great thing about standardized
Yeah.
tests is there's no standardized children. So listen, I'm running that bell. My daughter just graduated from college, and she had an interview with Pearson. And I said, I love you. I'll take the grandchild.
Oh.
I'll never speak to you again. She's like, no, mom, it's a really good job. I said, lean in, lean in. You will not be going to work for Pearson. And all the people said amen.
No,
No, no, I don't.
that's right.
Yeah. So we
Yeah,
have to stand
exactly.
up. We have to be unified. We have an opportunity now to be unified because we have these platforms. Before, if Cher and I both had a child that played tennis and the tennis coach did something goofy, we would be down at the field house in a hot minute. Parents with a child
Right.
with a disability are trying to get through Thursday. 88% of children that have a disability, their parents get divorced. So to say that
Oh.
it's against them would be a gross understatement. So let's use these platforms to come together and say it's happening in Alabama and in Texas and Alaska and all the other states that I can't spell, right? Because
Yep.
I was talking during that class and say,
Yep.
listen, it's the same problem. We want to fix it. We'll have a cakewalk. We'll do a couple more football games. We'll sell some nachos, but let's fix this. We have the problem.
Yeah.
Let's fix it. We
Yeah.
have the money. You have to get your legislators on the line. You have to light them up like Christmas Eve, right? In a way that we don't look like
Right.
lunatics and that we have to stick the landing,
Yep.
right? Because people are hot for a second and then they're like, okay, this is the new thing. And that's the new thing.
Yeah.
Education is the thing.
Yes.
It's always instead of graduating them, let's educate them. I don't care about your 4x4x4. I don't care about economics and government and PE and 2 years of foreign language. How about balancing a checkbook, right? How
Yeah.
about learning,
Yeah. Let's start.
yeah,
Yeah. Let's start there. How about learning to read?
yeah, that would be
How about
helpful.
learning to read?
Yeah.
Yes.
So tell us that
I
website
haven't.
that you said again about if you were homeschooled. You said that in the beginning.
Oh, okay. This is just one of the things I like. There's a website called All About Reading Press, I believe. If you Google All About Reading Homeschool, it will come right up. If you
Okay.
have a child with dyslexia and you're working with them at home, that's a great way to go.
Okay.
Simple.
So if somebody doesn't have resources to have an amazing tutor like you, or the ability to get an advocate, as it relates to reading, I'm a huge fan of Kurzweil, huge fan of Learning Ally. What can they do
Oh, Learning
functionally?
Ally is wonderful.
Yeah, what can they do now to help their kiddos be more proficient readers?
If you have young children, you can go on teacherspayteachers.com and you can search phonemic awareness free and come up with so many activities to help your child work on what dyslexia is about the way your brain processes the sounds in language. If your child has trouble processing those sounds, you'll see things like they'll have lots of, those, like my daughter said, ferator instead of refrigerator. They might be speech delayed. They might have trouble learning the alphabet. If you're seeing those kinds of things, just go on Teachers Pay Teachers and search phonemic awareness free. And you will have so many things you won't know what to do. Go to the All About Learning Press, because starting with their kindergarten level, they have the same thing. All the activities that you want for your child if you suspect dyslexia or any other learning disability, really. They're right there, and it's not an expensive program. I really recommend it. Yeah.
And I want to just share with you guys ED Helper letter E, the letter D, helper.com is free right now. I think usually it's $29 a year. They have bundles of every unit, every grade, printable workbooks for fourth graders, printable workbooks for every unit of study, every grade, because we got to get our kids off the computer and on a piece of paper, right? Education.com right
Yeah.
now, free. So avail yourself of those things. There are a lot of apps that are free. Your states usually have great resources. If you go to your DOE, your Department of Education, your SEA, your state education agency, there are great resources. Your state will have trainings. I think parents often think they're for teachers, and they are, but they're going to benefit you too as a parent. So edhelper.com, edhelper.com, and then education.com right now is free. So we're going to, yes, back to paper. Yes, I live for paper. Something amazing happens when you write, right?
Something different happens in your brain when you write than when you type. Absolutely. It's a different process.
Yes. So
All right.
will you come back again? We would like to have you on an actual Zoom where we record it and then it stays up on Special Education Academy for perpetuity.
Oh, I would love that. That would be amazing.
Yes. Well, we know that you have, thank you for taking time. I know that you have busy plans with your family this weekend. So thank you. Yes. Everybody, make sure that you go join her page. Otherwise, you can't be on my page. It's a state law. So thank you so much for coming on, and we appreciate you. And then we'll see you in the next training. All right.
I'd love to talk again. Have a good evening, everybody. Right. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And you guys, we have a webinar coming up this Saturday, which is going to talk about we have a mastermind coming up. So people are wanting to know how to be an advocate, sort of in a condensed sort of way. It's a 24-hour delivered over 12 weeks. So there's 2 webinars to give you information about that. It'll be live. The link is in the bio. Just go to specialeducationacademy.com. Again, if you email us and say, hey, I'm in education, whatever kind of education you're in, we will give you a code for a free month of the academy when you send the email. So it's admin@specialeducationacademy.com. We have virtual classes. We have in-person classes. We have 2-day trainings and virtual on demand and 2-day trainings in person. We love you guys. We're going to be on here a lot more as soon as the school year is over. If you have questions for us or there's a specific training that you want, let us know at admin@specialeducationacademy.com. Thank you. Do kids have to take a second language? They do and they don't. It just depends on what the special ed eligibility is. You guys are wonderful. Anybody that wasn't wonderful, I think you're wonderful anyway. Thanks you guys for jumping on. If you need something, let us know. Remember, we get it right for the child. We get it right for everybody. And we'll see you guys in the next training.